Can I be superficial and spiritual? In this episode of the LightCast, I have some questions for you. Stick around. This idea of conscious creator is just becoming aware that you can't not be. Of course you are. Like, I know that you're a spiritual being. Your spirituality is unique to you. It's specifically yours. And you're robbing all the rest of us from having the experience of you.
Yes.
Please don't rob us. What if you are one of those one rare beings that has something very different, very special, and very unique to bring into the world? Once you become like fully embodied, fully aware, fully focused, you make a difference. Consciousness underlies everything. You are a creator. You are participating in the creation of everything that you're experiencing. What are you going to do with that? So I've had an inner dialogue going since I decided to make the commitment to start publishing content on YouTube this past year. I'm calling it an inner dialogue. In some ways, it feels a little bit more like an inner argument with different aspects of myself duking it out with one another. And before anyone suggests that I think too much, let me just assure you that I'm not interested in thinking any less. I love thinking, and I have a very active mind, and I enjoy contemplating and concentrating on all kinds of things, so it just is what it is. But what I'm deciding to do with this episode is to extrovert some of my internal dialogue and insecurities and vulnerabilities. For any of you who are aware of the Myers-Briggs system or any other sort of personality inventory system, you'll know that there are those who extrovert a lot of their sort of emotional stuff, and then there are those who process things internally. And generally, I'm of the introverted internal processing type. But in this case, I'm going to put some things out there. And I expect for anyone who's paid the least bit of attention to my content so far, to you it will come as no surprise that I am willing to be vulnerable if I think it's interesting or useful, or if the subject is something that has some universal appeal, so I can open up a dialogue about it. So here goes. One of the big questions for me going into 2022 as I start contemplating my content on this channel and maybe even reaching out to other contacts to see if they'll have a conversation with me is this question. May I be superficial and spiritual? Or, said in other words, how will you perceive me if I present my whole self? If I held some of myself back, would I be more able to reach people and make an impact? Or, conversely, if I put everything out there, will I be perceived as a freak? Is it okay for me to be misunderstood? Do I really have anything worth saying? Do I have anything of value to offer? If I'm too heavy-handed with spiritual ideas on this channel, will it turn some people off from having conversations with me on more superficial subjects? See, I think these are really good questions. And the funny thing to me is that from a spiritual perspective, there are no superficial subjects, at least from where I stand in my understanding of my spiritual nature. But I know that the idea of embracing one's spirituality and expressing it out loud is a taboo thing for a lot of people in popular culture. And why is that? I feel that for many, the word spiritual carries some mental baggage. And in some ways, it's deeper than mental. It's cultural and race baggage, and it goes back a long, long way. At some point, humanity started placing the divine outside themselves, up in the sky somewhere, We made it into a separate thing that we were to aspire to. And in that process, we started judging ourselves and calling ourselves bad. So the divine is good and people are bad. Based upon where I currently stand, all of that is a distortion. There is not a being alive that is not a spiritual being. It's just that we need to give ourselves permission to rid ourselves of the accumulated ideas of what that means. What does it mean to be spiritual? We need to get back to the heart of the matter, both literally and metaphorically. So, the higher aspects of my nature want me to live authentically and with virtue in a field of love and kindness for all creation, and to do it out loud. And that is a desire and a directive of sorts of my higher self. My higher self also has all kinds of creative aspirations and intentions. One thing that may surprise a lot of people to know is that your higher self, our higher selves, are on the forward edge of creation. We are made to manifest things on this plane, and evolution is what it's all about. The question is, what are we making? The lower, more superficial aspects of myself, in contrast to that lofty stuff I just expressed, my lower nature is worried about whether or not you think I look handsome on this video, and maybe I should shave my beard and lose a few pounds. I used to be more attractive. I really let myself go. Blah, blah, blah. I think most people alive can relate to that kind of inner conversation. But do these things really matter? Should I be thinking this way? And that word should is pretty dangerous. I used to judge myself for my superficiality, but that actually only made it worse. If you think about it, it's actually vain to go into a self-analysis of your superficiality and vanity. It's almost like the great teacher Richard Rudd says in his work, The Gene Keys, when he's speaking to the shadow of vanity. He says it's the best thing to do is to just not think about it at all. And I can relate to that. So I guess what I'm saying, or what I'm asking is, I'm going to make this a declaration at this point in this episode. I am both superficial and spiritual. I don't expect that my spiritual path is going to be one of those where I'm called to renounce the world and retreat into a mountain sanctuary or a cave someplace where I go into a trance state and meditate. But at the same time, and I believe there are those among us that are called toward that path, and that is how they serve. I don't believe that's how I serve at this point in my experience. I believe that I am to remain a part of the manifest world and to be spiritually physical and physically spiritual. So on this channel, at least for now, I'm going to be honest and real and authentic as a superficial spiritual being. And I'm learning through experience what exactly that means from moment to moment. And I'm not willing to be superficial to the degree that I hide the spiritual dimension of my life so that I can be more materially successful and get more followers and likes and all that fun stuff. And I'm also not willing to be so engrossed in my spiritual life that I deny the everyday stuff. The shadows and the insecurities and the uncertainties and the mistakes and the confusion. I know myself as all of it. And so the question for virtual land, for any of you who may have hung with this neurotic guy for this long during this contemplation is, will you let me be superficial and spiritual? Can I make a difference to you if I am that thing? Let me know what you think. I embrace and welcome your comments on this one. So I will sign off for now and look forward to seeing you next time.